Welcome, you quiet chaos makers, you silent warriors who walk the edge of impossibility with cracked knuckles and bleeding knees. This is for the ones who never needed applause to move the earth, the ones whose blueprints were scratched on napkins, smeared in coffee and ink, tears and rejection. This is for those who dared to aim with no clear target, yet still hit a cosmic bullseye. You're the unpolished miracle that no one predicted. And this moment right here, this sound, this surge, you feel it's for you, because whatever it was that you were trying, it landed. It landed so hard, the world blinked and whispered, "How?" You see, the difference between those who stare at the edge and those who jump off it is not vision, it's venom. A kind of madness, the kind that doesn't beg for permission or even clarity. It just moves, burns, claws, pushes tears through silence and confusion and chaos like a blade through fog. You weren't even supposed to make it past the first chapter, and here you are, rewriting the damn story with your own blood and rusted hands. You didn't plan the masterpiece. You became the masterpiece by moving when it didn't make sense, by building when there was no blueprint, by trusting that if the ground was gone, then wings would grow. And they did, didn't they? They did. People will ask how you did it, and you won't have an answer. Not because you don't know, but because it was never about logic, never about strategy. It was about something far deeper, more feral. A hum that kept calling you in your sleep. The pressure that sat on your chest every time you tried to be normal. The itch behind your ribs. When you watched others settle the scream, you kept swallowing every time someone said, "Just be realistic." They don't understand that you weren't chasing a goal. You were running from extinction. You were surviving by becoming. You were never chasing success. You were avoiding death, the death of your soul, the death of your potential, the death of what you could have been had you just followed the script. And let's be honest, you didn't have a clue what you were building. You weren't some genius crafting a perfect plan. You were rage and silence and vision colliding in the middle of nothing. You were fighting shadows, hoping they would turn into structures, and they did, because you kept showing up, kept swinging, even when your arms were trembling and your knees buckled. You dared to show up again when you had every reason to quit, and that's what makes you lethal. Not the outcome, not the glory, not the end result, but that decision in the dark to keep going, without applause, without certainty, without map or guide or compass. You went anyway. People saw the surface, they saw the spark, the flash, the final scene. They didn't see the furnace, the nights you screamed into your pillow, the messages left unread, the friendships lost, the money gone, the doubts clawing at you like beasts. They didn't see you alone against the mirror whispering, "Just one more day, just give me one more day." They didn't see the scars you covered with small talk, the hope that turned to ash in your hands again and again. But you kept digging, you kept pushing, you kept believing, not because it made sense, but because it was either that or die. A quiet death, and you weren't made for silence. You weren't made for small. You were made to roar, even if it shook your own bones. And look where it got you, not by perfecting the plan, but by refusing to stay still. You were chaos with purpose, fire with no leash, a storm too precise to be dismissed. And now they ask, how did that work? And all you can do is smile, because they don't understand the math of madness. They don't know what it's like to be possessed by a future no one else can see. They don't get that. Some people weren't made to follow paths. They are the path. That's what you are. You didn't find your lane. You built one with calloused fingers and cracked voices and no blueprint at all. You walked into a storm that wasn't supposed to be survivable. And you didn't just survive, you became the storm. You are the storm. The reason some people keep watching from the sidelines, mouth open, mind spinning, because they're not sure whether to fear you or follow you. And that's fine, because this journey wasn't about them. It was about you and the voice inside that never shut up, the one that kept whispering, more is coming, keep going, even now, even broken, keep going. And you listened when no one else did. And that's why the impossible now wears your name like a badge. There will always be those who doubt, who mock, who stand behind safety glass and throw opinions like stones. But you weren't built for the audience. You were built for the arena. And that's where you bleed. That's where you rise. That's where you earn what no one else is even willing to chase. Because this world doesn't need more perfect. It needs more real, more raw, more relentless people. Like you, people who don't wait for guarantees, who become the guarantee by sheer will and war and grit. So what if it wasn't polished? So what if it was messy? That's the point. The mess is the masterpiece. The fire is the formula. You didn't follow the map because you are the map. And now others will trace your footsteps, hoping to decode what you did. But they won't get it, because what you did can't be taught. It can only be felt, that level of hunger, of fury, of purpose. It's not written in books. It's written in bruises and heartbeats and failure, and you have all of that in excess. Now you stand here, not because you had a perfect idea, but because you refuse to die with it still inside you. And that's what separates you from everyone else. You let the world call you crazy, wrong, reckless, but you stayed true. And now those same people are quiet, watching, stunned as you walk through walls they said would never move, because they don't understand that once you decide to be unstoppable, nothing can stand in your way. Not logic, not failure, not fear, nothing. This speech isn't for the ones who want comfort. It's for the ones who want truth. The ones who wake up with fire in their mouth and no place to put it, so they build something just to feel alive. This is for those who use pain as bricks and silence as scaffolding, who have lost more than they've won, but never once stop moving. If that's you, then you know exactly what I'm talking about, because you don't need to win to prove something. You need to try to stay alive, and trying is what brought you here, what landed, whatever it was that made everyone's jaw drop. You weren't trying to impress. You were trying to breathe. You weren't hoping to be understood. You were hoping to not disappear. And that difference, that raw difference, is why the universe bent a little when you showed up. It's why your moves worked, even when they shouldn't. It's why they say, "How did that work?" And you don't know how to answer, because there was no manual. There was only madness, and that madness delivered. This is the beauty of becoming something no one saw coming. You confuse the critics, you silence the noise, and you light a fire so bright it burns through doubt. Not just yours, but theirs too. You're not a mistake. You're the math of miracles. You're not lucky, you're lethal. You're not lost. You're just too far ahead for them to see you clearly. Yet, and that's okay, because visionaries never start in the spotlight. They drag the spotlight to them by force. So what now? You landed it. You made it work somehow. And now the world stares. What do? Now you do it again. Bigger, messier, louder. You double down on the chaos and you remember where you came from. Because this isn't the end. It's just the next breath in a longer war. And you're a soldier now. Not because you chose war, but because peace never gave you a place to exist. Remember this moment. Burn it in your bones. The one where you shocked even yourself. Where the thing you weren't even sure would work worked. And you stood there blinking. Not because you didn't believe, but because you couldn't believe. It happened this way. You didn't follow rules. You followed conviction. And that's what changed the game. So walk tall, not with arrogance, but with certainty that whatever it is you've become is only the beginning. There's more to build, more to burn, more to rise through, and they still won't understand how it keeps working. But that's not your job. Your job is to keep moving, keep believing, keep making the impossible normal, because now you know the truth. You don't need to see the end to begin, and you don't need permission to rise. All you need is one broken spark and the refusal to let it die, and from there, everything is possible. Everything is inevitable. And if you did it once, you can do it again, even louder, even wilder, even more. You so keep going, and when they ask again, how did that work? Just smile and let them watch as you break the next rule, bend the next law, rewrite the next limit with the same energy you used to survive. Because now they see the result, but they'll never feel what you felt when you were building in the dark. And that's what makes you different. That's what makes you dangerous. That's what makes you unstoppable. Because now that the silence is broken, now that the dust is cleared and the world is tilted just slightly under the weight of what you did, now that they've seen it, they'll try to name it, label it, explain it in terms they can understand, but they never will. Because what you created wasn't just an action. It was an act of defiance, a war cry disguised as progress, a rebellion wrapped in creation, and no textbook, no mentor, no expert saw it coming, because they were too busy playing it safe while you were busy becoming the storm. They don't know how many nights you walked circles around your own fear, how many mornings you stared into the mirror with shaking hands and fire in your lungs, saying, "Not today, not today, fear, not today, doubt, not today, silence, today, I rise again," with no reason other than the refusal to stay down, again and again, until rising became instinct, and instinct became force, and that force became this outcome, this moment, this awestruck silence you're standing in now. You didn't calculate your way here. You clawed your way here on instinct and grit and sheer refusal to break, and they'll say, "But you got lucky." No, you didn't. You got tired of losing. You got tired of sitting in your own potential like a caged animal while the world scrolled past, and one day you just moved, and from that movement came momentum, and from that momentum came madness, and from that madness came miracles. And now they ask how you did it, as if it was a trick, as if it was some random coin toss. But you and I both know there was nothing random about what you became. You were forged in fire and rejection and the kind of failure that makes most people quit. You were tested in silence in the long stretches of doubt when no one clapped, and you clapped for yourself. You patted your own back. You whispered, "Keep going," even as your legs buckled and your mind begged you to stop. But you didn't stop. You couldn't, because something deeper than logic, something louder than fear, kept pulling you forward. This moment isn't an accident. It's a culmination of chaos and commitment. It's what happens when a soul chooses growth over comfort again and again and again, until comfort forgets your name and greatness becomes your new normal. And here's the thing, it's not over. This wasn't your final form. It wasn't your final fight. It was just the first proof that the monster inside you is real, that your dreams weren't delusions. They were prophecies waiting to unfold. Let them talk. Let them wonder. Let them try to dissect your method. They'll never get it because they weren't there when you bled for it. They weren't there when you doubted your own sanity. They weren't there when your heart shattered and your hands still kept building. They didn't hear the screaming silence when you lost everything and decided to keep going anyway. And they never will, because this kind of power, this kind of rise, isn't something you explain. It's something you live. And the best part? You're just getting started, because now you know what's possible. Now you've seen with your own eyes what happens when you listen to you, when you trust yourself so completely that you move even when the path doesn't exist, and suddenly the path forms beneath your feet. That's your magic. That's your madness. That's your edge. And no one can take that from you. No critic, no failure, no enemy, because what's inside you doesn't break it. Builds even in the middle of destruction, it builds. So take this win and don't let it make you soft. Let it sharpen you. Let it remind you of who you are and where you're going and what you've survived. Because if you could pull this off, then what else is waiting? What other miracles are on the edge of your next move? What other laws of reality are waiting to be rewritten by the sheer audacity of your belief in yourself? You didn't come this far just to land. Once you came this far to learn how to fly. And now that you know it's possible, you owe it to yourself to keep soaring, to keep defying, to keep writing the kind of story that makes people rethink what's possible. Not just for you, but for them. Because your success isn't just yours. It's a spark that lights torches in the dark for others to follow. They'll never fully understand how it worked because they don't understand what it cost you. They don't understand what you had to let die inside yourself to be reborn as someone who refuses to be caged. They don't see the nights where failure was your only company and hope felt like a stranger. They don't see the loneliness, the loss, the breakdowns behind closed doors. But you do, and that's what makes this so powerful, because you know what it took. You know the depth of the climb, and that makes the summit yours, in a way. No one can fake, and you won't stop here, not because you're not proud, but because you're still hungry, still burning, still drawn towards something even bigger, something even wilder, something that scares you. And that's exactly how you know it's real, because real goals don't comfort, they haunt. They stalk you in your sleep, they whisper in your quietest moments, and they demand more. And you, relentless, you will answer again and again, because now you are the proof. Now you are the math, the model, the mirror that says, yes, it's possible. Yes, you can. Yes, even when it doesn't make sense, even when it's too late, even when you're too tired, even when no one sees it, even when you don't fully see it, it's still real. It's still coming. So don't shrink now. Don't slow down. Don't apologize for confusing the world with a result they didn't predict. That's your superpower. That's the legacy you're building. The unexplainable victory. The kind of rise that leaves even you speechless. The kind of magic that can't be duplicated because it was never scripted. It was earned. Let them stare. Let them question. Let them write essays about how it shouldn't have worked, while you write history with your bare hands and cracked voice and that grin that says, I know what I did and I'll do it again, because you weren't trying to impress them, you were trying to live. And now you're not just living, you're leading. You're becoming a force that others measure themselves against. And if that scares them, let it. Because you didn't come here to be liked. You came here to light fires and burn paths and move worlds, and somehow, some way, that's exactly what you're doing. So to anyone watching this wondering how it worked, the answer is simple. It worked because you did not, perfectly not, predictably, not politely, but fully, completely, with everything you had and nothing held back. That's what made the difference. That's what made the world shift a little when you walked into the room, and it will never be the same again, because now you're not just part of the story. You are the story, and it's only just beginning. You see, the truth that no one talks about is that every triumph, every breakthrough, every moment that makes people stop and wonder how. It's born in the shadows. It's forged in the parts of your life you don't broadcast. The ones where doubt pressed its cold hands against your throat, where fear whispered lies so convincing you almost believed them, where the loneliness became so vast you questioned whether the path was even yours to take. But you held on. You gripped the edge with fingers trembling but unyielding. You stumbled forward with a broken compass and a reckless heart. And that is why it landed. They see the surface, the aftermath, the spark that lit up the sky, but they don't see the relentless grind underneath, the internal war waged behind closed doors, the nights spent staring at ceilings while your mind screamed for release, the countless moments when quitting felt like the only sane choice. You chose not to quit. You chose to stand when your legs begged for rest, to fight when your spirit begged for mercy, to become a force that wasn't just surviving, but shaping reality itself. That's the power they don't understand, the power of the relentless human will, of a soul too hungry to settle for anything less than its own legend. What you did wasn't magic, it wasn't luck, and it sure as hell wasn't some neat plan unfolding like clockwork. It was chaos. It was a beautiful, brutal chaos where you smashed through walls of doubt, tore down ceilings of fear, and built something raw and untamed in the rubble. You didn't wait for the green light. You made your own damn light, and when it flickered uncertainly, you fed it with every ounce of desperation, hope, pain, and defiance inside you. You fueled a fire that no storm could drown, a fire that burned so fiercely it shocked even yourself. That fire, that raw, unyielding drive, is the answer to their questions. This moment, this victory, isn't an endpoint. It's a declaration. It's a warning to the world that you are not a bystander in your own story, that the chaos you've lived through wasn't random suffering, but preparation, that the scars you carry are the blueprint of your power. You've walked through darkness without a flashlight and emerged with your own light blazing, and now nothing, not fear, not a doubt, not even the weight of expectation can snuff it out. Because you know something sacred, the impossible only becomes impossible to those who refuse to keep trying. So take this moment and own it. Let it be a testament not just to what you achieved, but to how you achieved it. The raw, messy, relentless way you clawed your way forward, without a net, without guarantees, without backup plans. You were not a polished product. You were a wild force of nature, unpredictable, unshakable, undeniable. And that is your greatest strength. The world is full of those who play it safe, who wait for the perfect conditions, who are frozen by the fear of failure. You are different. You are the storm that breaks the sky, the crack in the system that no one saw coming, the living proof that sometimes the best way to win is to throw everything you have at the wall and see what sticks. And when it sticks hard. Don't let the weight of this moment slow you down or make you hesitate. If anything, let it ignite something deeper, a fiercer hunger to keep pushing, keep breaking, keep building. Because the truth is this, the world needs more of what you have, the relentless courage to step into the unknown, the audacity to believe in your vision, even when it makes no sense, the refusal to settle for anything less than extraordinary. You're not just surviving the chaos, you're mastering it, bending it to your will, turning it into a weapon that cuts through doubt and silence alike. And the people who watch you, the ones who ask how, with wide eyes and closed minds, they will always wonder. Because they look for answers in formulas and rules, but you live by a different code. You write your own rules. You create your own formulas. You are the anomaly that can't be explained, the wild card that changes the game, the force that no one can predict or control. And that is a power no one can take from you. It is yours forever. Remember this truth as you move forward. The how doesn't matter. What matters is the that you tried, that you fought, that you landed. Because landing isn't about perfection. It's about persistence. It's about standing tall when everyone else expected you to fall. It's about making the impossible look inevitable through sheer will. And you have done exactly that. You have turned every no into a yes, every doubt into fuel, every failure into a stepping stone. You have done what few dare to do. You have become unstoppable. So, what comes next? Keep moving. Keep breaking. Keep rewriting the rules. Keep landing those shots the world says shouldn't land. Because this moment is not the finish line. It's the launch pad. The place where your true journey begins. You've earned this moment. Now, earn the next, and the next, and the next after that. Because this fire inside you, it's eternal. It's relentless. It's who you are. And when they ask again, how did that work? Just smile quietly, because deep down, you already know. It worked because you were brave enough to try when no one else would. Because you were fierce enough to keep going when every part of you begged to stop. Because you were you, wild, unbreakable, and uncontainable. That is the real answer. That is the only answer. That is the power you carry with you, always.